Hello, welcome to Premier Scene. I'm Claire Bueno, as our faith is truly put to the test in deepest, darkest Dartmoor as we attend the world premiere of The Borderlands. Now you're here with the Borderlands, I should say. Can I ask you first of all, what was the genesis really of the story for you?
Well, two things really. There was one, if you go to Dartmoor, there's a church just right in the middle of Dartmoor called Brentor, and it's just this amazing sort of spooky church. It just sits on the edge of the hill and it just looks really crazy, and that's kind of, just the idea came from that, like what about a film set in a haunted church, and it all sort of came from that. And there's also another very interesting thing about basically the Catholic Church and their kind of view on miracles, and it's sort of a combination of the two of those really, and how you can turn that into a horror movie. So I think
the Southwest thing, no, the Southwest is full of sort of mysticism, isn't it? What was it? How did you come across it? Do you live down there?
No, not at all. No, it's just sort of visiting and just seeing it. It's sort of I don't know. It's a very magical place, Dartmoor. When you're there, it just sort of feels, I don't know, there's something very palpable about it. It just feels like there's sort of spirits and just things everywhere down there really. So it just felt like the right place to set something like this, a kind of British horror really. I mean, I think it's about time that places like the sort of south of America and stuff like that, they get there's sort of lots of stuff goes on there, but Britain's really kind of a very spooky place. It's a very old place, and there's a lot of very old things there. There's like we looked a lot into sort of Anglo-Saxon religion and stuff like that, and ancient gods, old gods, and there's a sort of where the Norse gods, and there's a kind of weird point in time when there was sort of gods being worshipped here, but no one knows anything about them. No one knows what these, what they're called even. So I think it's just very fascinating because this stuff was really strong, and now no one knows about it. But I think if you just sort of dig under the surface just a little bit, you might.
No, exactly. Well, we discovered actually, because location scouting was really interesting because we had almost too many choices, which we were really surprised by. And then the church that we actually ended up selecting in the end was actually built in 1130 and had a lot of the same sort of, it was probably, well, I'll just say it had a lot of similar history with what happens in the film. So it's very, very cool stuff.
Yeah, very interesting and sort of a little bit scary really almost. So when you sort of, I don't know, going there on a recce and is all fine and everything like that, and when you're filming it's fine, but then when the rest of the crew have gone or whatever and you're just there on your own, it's kind of a little bit like, actually maybe, I don't know.
The battery doesn't go out on my torch sort of a moment, but yeah.
Yeah, a little bit too close to the truth. Maybe, maybe it's just a documentary. But,
and when you're bringing a story like this to life, what made you want to bring the kind of religious element into it, really?
Well, I think it's just very interesting that, I don't know, it was just because I wanted to do something that was sort of tackled faith and belief, and that sort of makes it sound really kind of highfalutin, but I think that, I don't know, if you look at a film like, say, The Exorcist or something like that, it's very much, in order for you to kind of buy the story, you have to kind of accept, you have to make a sort of, you have to accept that God is real, the devil is real, and stuff like that. And I wanted to sort of do something where it kind of can work on both levels. So if you are a religious person, then it's, then you can take one viewpoint of it. If you're not religious, then you can see another viewpoint. I don't know, I just find it's very fascinating because, we live in the modern day world, but then at the same time there's lots of people who kind of believe in very ancient things, and they kind of manage to kind of get the tube to go to work and everything like that,
It's sort of very realistic. It's a very realistic perspective of it and that kind of thing.
Yeah, in fact, on the way here I saw like a priest on the train. It was quite a kind of, I thought it was like a nice little omen. Well, not omen. That's probably wrong word. But it was just really nice. It's kind of they're just normal people. They're just kind of they're just people who they have their own problems and they struggle with faith and belief just like the rest of us. So so hopefully. There you go. Sorry, that's a bit of a shit.
There we go. No, you're good, Ben.
And for you, how did you get involved in the project? What was it about the story that you believed in so much that you felt, right, okay, let's make this happen?
It's a lot of the similar things to what Elliot was saying, the notion of religion and faith and what proves that something exists. And a lot of horror movies actually aren't far off from faith. The first 3/4 of the movie, you're sort of being tested. Do you believe it exists? Do you not believe it exists? So it was really interesting seeing that be brought directly to Christian faith and Christian iconography and have them, is God real? Is God not real? Do we believe in miracles? Do we not believe in miracles? So it was interesting to see all of that play out together.
So anyway, any interesting gossip?
No,
We've got
really.
none. We live very empty lives. We just go from one schlock horror film to another, getting eaten or bitten or whatever, and it's just very dull. What about you?
Well, talking about nuns. This is a kind of a religious film. There we go.
I try not to talk about nuns. I go a little bit misty-eyed with nuns, mainly because of the character I play. Obviously, is a Benedictine friar, who's like a devil's advocate in the film, and he goes around the world with other Catholic people to ascertain whether miracles have actually happened or not. And they only award one once every 100 years, so it doesn't happen very often. But actually, in the film, I think we found one in Devon.
Specifically, actually, you've not been sent to prove that it is a miracle. No. You've been sent specifically to prove that it isn't. So it's more like a debunking of these charlatans and stuff. Yeah. So the Vatican send out this team to debunk charlatanry around the world, and in this instance you've run into something, you've bitten off slightly more than you can chew. Yeah, basically. And Rob plays a guy who sets up all the video technology. So he's like the techie guy who's got no experience and is certainly not religious and has no experience of all and just thinks it's all bollocks. Until things start moving around, and then he doesn't think that at all. Yeah, I'm the sort of I suppose in a way I'm the window in for the audience a little bit, the layman who's come into this situation. And so what do you do? What is your purpose? And we explain what the film's about, and then we've jumped past the question and just gone straight into it.
Making my job very easy, Karen.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, no, you ask your question.
Layman. No.
No, well, to some degree, I'm the layman of the piece and sort of the eyes of the audience in that respect. Coming in and joining this team to determine whether these paranormal activities have. Could be accorded miracle status. And that's the story. And then things go very, very badly wrong after that.
So for you, what was it in particular then when you first read the script that you thought, I have got to be a part of this film?
The money.
Well, that never happens in an indie.
Yeah, no. Funnily enough, it wasn't. No, it wasn't the money. No, I just wanted to get away from my family for a month, and I did. It was great. No, it was just interesting. And because it was found footage, I'd never done that before, and I just thought it's really interesting that it's already a genre, which is quite, because it sort of happened very quickly, and I just thought it was really an interesting way of telling stories, and as it proved to be, it was a really fun. Way of working is doing 5 because there's a lot of room in found because they're not having to change lights all the time. Basically, you're just changing a camera. Sometimes it's on your shoulder, sometimes. So there's a lot of room to move things around and really work on stuff and improvise a bit and all do all that. So that really helped. And we hit it off right from the off.
That was it for me, really. That was what attracted me to it. Was that
it was me. As soon as you heard I was attached, I got to work with this dude.
I spoke to Elliot, the director, and he said that he would be encouraging improvisation and would be open to, because of the very intimate nature of the film. It's a very small number of characters, and it's a very small number of locations and situations, really. That he would be trying to draw out a lot of the sort of human. The character of the film, and that he was expecting that or hoping that would come largely from the actors, so that he would encourage improvisation, and I hope that we kind of capitalised on that.
You're working with a writer-director, so how does that help you with your process, really?
Well, I mean, his height helped a lot because I could tower over him and bully him, so that was very helpful. No, of course, it's perfect because he's kind of immersed in it, and also if something isn't working. And, we were doing a lot of improvisation, then we'd get into the script and say, that line doesn't work because of X, Y, and Z. Because he's the writer, he can say, well, no, that's fine, let's do this. And he would come up with ideas.
He could come up with very quick judgments about stuff. And, as Gordon's saying, particularly in terms of improvisation, it's really, if you're improvising over a writer's material when they're not also directing it, there's a certain element of guilt there, you're ruining.
Trashing his script in front of him as he's directing is perfect.
It's actually much easier and in a way, much less indecent from an acting point of view. Is that we were working on it together. We'd look through the scripted material and say, okay, now how can we actually practically do this for
Gordon told him
and for me, and then we'd work on the scene together. We'd hash through the scene together and sort of partly improv, partly scripted, and we'd work it out sort of on the spot. to be as interesting as we could make it.
And I think that's really worked, and the editors and the directors and the producers have really kept faith with that. So it should feel like it's really happening in front of your eyes.
Well, from a found footage film, if a found footage film I think is completely is scripted and storyboarded, for example, then it's going to feel slightly artificial. So I think adding an element of improv, adding a spontaneity in the shooting style and stuff is really helps that sense of sort of immediacy and that sense of sort of actuality, which you absolutely need if you want to create an immersive found footage film. So it wasn't arbitrary; it was a considered thing that we were doing, and I hope that plays for the audience,
What was it about the script that when you first read it, made you want to attach yourself to the project?
Well, it's very interesting. I think Elliot, who's our director and our writer, did a brilliantly interesting job of sort of justifying the fan footage, first of all, but also sort of exploring, the idea that the Vatican would go in to investigate paranormal activity in order to refute it. And that's what my character does. He's somebody who's completely rational, doesn't believe in psychic or spiritual or paranormal activity, and he basically goes in to debunk anything. He almost doesn't believe in God, my character, and basically I love that twist that he gave on that character. So yeah, it was a really good script.
Are you playing a priest?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting then, obviously for you, you're playing a man of the church who's actually questioning his own faith. Yeah,
well, basically, like the Vatican, like we had moving statues in Ireland in the 80s. And there was sort of a mass hysteria or whatever, and people were like, "Oh, she moved!" There was lots of jokes about dancing statues and stuff. But the church were completely trying to quash that because they didn't want to be associated with something that was mass hysteria. They wanted it to be. So it's in their interest really to sort of if they're able to debunk stuff, it basically means that the stuff that we are supposed to believe in, that they say in mass, isn't going to be something that people go, "What? Really? Is that?" Well, it was found that the church said that the moving statues existed, and then it was proved that they weren't. You know what I mean? And so maybe Jesus didn't rise from the. You know what I mean? So basically, the church will sort of, I think, always go out to maintain that miracles don't really happen in our lifetime. They're all something that happened in the past. So.
When you were researching your character, did you give him a backstory at all?
Yeah.
So where, if he is questioning his own faith, where did that come from? Had something happened to him?
No, I think he's just somebody who's he's a career priest who wants to sort of move up, the ladder, and he just happens to be a priest who is in that particular form. He could easily be in some corporation or a company or whatever. He just happens to be in the priesthood, So it's I think that was the interesting thing about that character, is that he's almost much more skeptical than any lay person has a right to be. You know what I mean? And Elliot wrote him, so I thought that was rather good.
And with regards to Elliot being the writer and the director, how does that help you with regards to your process as an actor, having someone who's also carved the characters from the beginning himself?
No, brilliant, because you were able to sort of, if there was if something didn't make any sense, you just go up to him and ask him. And he was always on the button. And if something didn't sit well with you, like the way you might have phrased something, you could have a chat with him, and he'd either say yay or try and make it work. And it's very good to have that, because you have somebody sort of guiding you along the way, and then between the two of you can get something that you're both interested in sort of achieving.
And did I hear as well that you filmed in actually a very sort of spooky place?
Yeah, it was a very scary old church, and there was not. Sometimes we were doing stuff in pitch black, and it was like, I like to think I'm sort of quite skeptical, but you can't take the Catholic out of the man, really, and sort of, I wouldn't start. Rob would be cursing in the church, and I would like, "Oh, you've got to stop cursing, please," Like, it would just come out of me. I couldn't bear. He'd be like, I was going, "Look, you're in a church, okay? You're in a church.
Have some respect."
I know, yeah. It was like, it just came out of me. It's like this sort of this conservative Catholic that has sort of been latent and don't curse anymore. So there's a sort of I think there is a level of respect and superstition that I have that I was hammered into me before I was 7, and I don't think it'll ever be squashed, I'm afraid.